Good day, my dear students. So last time we talked about interest. So when we borrow money, what we pay for in the future is not only the amount that we borrowed or the principal, but the interest should be added to that. Interest is added on the payment since we are given with the privilege of using that money. We computed for interest using the simple interest formula. I equals P times R times T. I is the interest incurred, P is the principal or the amount that you borrowed, R is the interest rate, and finally T is the interest period or the amount of time before you are asked to pay for the loan. In this segment or in this discussion, we are going to talk about compound interest. So you might be wondering what's the difference between simple and compound interest and when is it used in calculation or in finance. Some people would say that there is a magic in compound interest, and later on we will show you why is that. So simple interest is usually used for loans of 1 year or less. So in our previous examples, you might have noticed that the interest period is usually in 1 year or less than that. So in 3 months or in 6 months or in 4 months. When the loan is of more than 1 year, meaning to say you are expected to pay for the loan maybe in 2 years or in 5 years time, or in terms of insurance, you will receive the insurance or you will receive the premium rather in maybe in 20 years time. So in these cases, we do not compute for the simple interest, but we compute for the compound interest. So how different is compound interest with simple interest? Let's show using this example. So we have a principal of $1,000 and an interest rate of 5% and the interest period of 5 years. So even though the time period is 5 years, let's use the simple interest formula just to differentiate the two. So the simple interest formula is just I equals P times R times T. So our principal is $1,000 multiplied by the decimal form of 5%, which is 0.05. 5% is the annual interest rate. So since the time is also in years, we just have to plug in the 5 in place of T. Multiplying all three will give us the total interest rate or the total interest rather after 5 years, which would be $250. So the total interest incurred after 5 years of borrowing that money would be $250. In other words, if you would like to pay for the interest every year para mabawasan yung loan mo, you would have to pay $50 per year. 50 times 5, 5 being the 5-year duration or interest period, would be 250 in total. So how different is compounding interest or compound interest with simple interest? What do we mean when we say that the interest is compounding? In problems concerning compound interest, there are usually signal words or there would be a signal word after the interest rate. So R would be 5% compounded annually. So that would mean the interest will be compounded once in a year since compounded annually. Compounded semi-annually, the interest will be computed or compounded twice a year. So what do we mean by this? What do we mean when we say we are compounding the interest every year? So in this computation, we will not be computing interest in one go, just as we did with the simple interest example from a while ago. Instead, um, we will be computing for the interest per year, for year 1, for year 2, for year 3. year 4, and year 5. Why is that? Because the principal will be different in every year. So in year 1, this is just the same with the simple interest one. So 1,000 times 0.05 times 1 year, not 5 years, since we are only computing for the interest at the end of year 1. When we multiply all three together, it will be $50. In year 2, my principal will not only be 1,000, but it will be 1,050. Since if we are compounding the interest, we have to add the previous interest incurred, the interest in year 1, to the principal, 1,000. And it will be the new amount, the new principal at the beginning of year 2. So in year 2, you are not only multiplying the interest rate by 1,000, but you are multiplying it by 1,050. So at the end of the year, at the end of year 2, the interest that you would have to pay will also be higher. Instead of $50, it is now $52.5. In year 3, you add the 52.5 with the new principal, and so on and so forth. So this is what we mean when we say the interest is compounded. You are not only computing the interest using the original amount, but the interest that you incurred every year is added to that original amount. And that results to a higher total interest at the end of the 5-year period. So if we will use the simple interest formula, as we have shown from a while ago, the interest after 5 years will only total to a value of 250. But if the interest compounds annually, at the end of year 5, the total interest will have a total sum of 276.285. So more than $26, right?